So thanks, Smita, for joining us. I remember those days where I think a couple of years back when I was searching for the top influencers in the country, and I found your name there because I could see a lot of good work you're doing from the investment side and maybe guiding the startups on the right side. That's when I think we met earlier, and good to have you on the show. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, Sameer, for inviting me to do this. My pleasure.
Okay. Thanks, Smita. So I think the first question is there is enough negativity, enough challenges, enough of the problems which all of us now talking about. I think there has to be some positive insights, something which will change the whole thing differently. And so I want to hear about, so since you have worked as a regulator, you've worked on the banking side, insurance side as an investor. So you have a sort of very different views. So what do you see positive, what do you see from a positive side? What will happen now? And what will keep people excited going forward?
You're right, Sameer. We are actually amid an unfortunate combination of, I would say, public health catastrophe, economic slowdown, and an impending financial crisis, perhaps.
Correct.
In the Indian context, we are actually up against a lot of odds. We have a very large population with inadequate health infrastructure, very low resilience amongst a vast segment of our population to withstand health and financial shocks. We are seeing rapidly falling demand across products and services and much more. Um, Notwithstanding all of these challenges ahead of us in dealing with the crisis, I believe there may be a silver lining that is unique to India. Um, India, as we all know, has a digital identity in the form of Aadhaar for nearly all its population. 78% mobile penetration we have, more than 80% bank account penetration, and we have the world's second largest internet user base that continues to grow rapidly. We have the most convenient and the robust digital retail payment system. We have millions of neighborhood kirana stores that are actually acting as a lifeline today,
I agree.
offering essential household items. And they also offer banking services, including dispensing cash in remote villages. India has successfully carried out the world's largest direct benefit transfers to individual bank accounts. We have a fairly robust public distribution system for food grains. Given all of this, I think India is perhaps well poised to move towards a less contact, more digital economy. Tough times require unusual solutions. The top priority right now is to stay healthy, and hopefully, we all will. However, even after the virus fear recedes, it's unlikely that things will be back as before. There are likely to be many unintended consequences. For example, greater reliance on internet and digital solutions, accelerated use of drones, robots, machines. There could be a need for complete reskilling of workforce. Um, I believe this is perhaps the trigger to create a new digital world that has less contact but more inclusion.
No, I agree. I think we have been telling about the fintech side of thing, the digital side of it, saying that can we go contactless? And all the time we've been hearing about it's not possible, not feasible, customers are not ready. I think after demonetization, this is the right time for a lot of people to start. Because we know the fault lines now, right? What doesn't work? I think nobody can originate a new loan now. Current account openings have stopped because of the laws and the processes. And I know my SIPs for mutual fund also did not go through because the team could not process them. So I think this is bit difficult right now, but people know what is not working and what's working, and they right now potentially also have time, right?
Absolutely, you're right.
So I think different question in the long term perspective, how would customers behave? Right now we have sort of gone through a panic mode, and each level of startup of consumers will have a different impact. Those obviously at slightly wealthier may have different problems to talk about, but I think there's obviously tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 6 cities will have different set of problems. So what do you think will be a change in behavior which everybody should be aware of, and how will it fall into different segments and industries?
I mean, actually, there's a lot of chaos going around us. We still don't know where the situation will end up. But there are, I think, a few things we do know for sure. So, first of all, I think minimal human to human contact is likely to be the prescribed behavior for some time.
Mhm.
Two, even in isolation, there are certain products and services that every human being requires to be able to continue to function productively. And three, I think this is a global issue which is spread by an interconnected world. And the end of this will be when the virus recedes from everywhere and not just locally from a country.
Absolutely.
Countries like China, Singapore are already bracing for a repeat wave. Um, so it's quite likely that once there's a vaccine found for this virus, perhaps in 12 to 18 months down the road, physical activities may increase as before. However, the months in quarantine, I think, would have already exposed users to new ways of living and meeting their requirements. And that, I think, is the greatest opportunity to build on for sustained impact. Be it using online collaboration tools for dispersed teams to work on a common task, or direct delivery from farm to homes of vegetables,
I agree.
virtual trade fair being organized in China now. All of this demonstrates that there is a huge opportunity to disrupt and reinvent supply chains, inventory management, or even large scale interactions. In difficult times like this, consumer trust in online services can be won through simple things: assured delivery, safe handling, and transparent pricing. That's all that consumers need to be able to start trusting the online service. I believe there's likely to be a very high cost consciousness and thrifty behavior amongst consumers.
I agree.
There's likely to consumers will demand high value for money. There's likely to be greater focus on building safety nets through savings and insurance. I think the importance of bank accounts and digital transactions versus cash is probably more deeply understood now by the informal workers than during the demonetization.
I agree.
Those with a bank account got their salary or payout credited even during lockdown.
Correct.
So, overall, I think adoption of digital solutions that are relevant and reliable is likely to be accelerated.
This is good. This is good. So, those who are right now running the startups in maybe different segments in BFSI, so some in insurance, some in lending, and all of that. So, how would they prepare for the future? So, you can maybe take a global view and then maybe a bit of a segmental view for payments and lending companies and all.
Sure. I think just as doctors and medical workers are leading the fight to win over the health crisis, it's quite likely that the economic crisis would be won by innovative entrepreneurs and small businesses. Uh, Alibaba thrived during the SARS crisis, and
Mhm.
they actually launched a new business, Taobao, which was the consumer e-commerce platform in China. Which went on to beat its biggest competitor, eBay, in China. Taobao was created while the team was in quarantine during SARS outbreak. Just very recently, online workplace solution startup Notion raised a $50 million at a $2 billion valuation in a round that came together in 36 hours. So it's not going to be the end of the world, and there will be good ideas emerging and making winners. For the startups, I think the foremost priority is to secure their team and their finances so that they can survive till the end of this crisis. It's very important to not dwell on business lost, but to accept new realities, understand new problems faced by customers, and work on solutions for them. I know this is easier said than done because
Mm.
a lot of the plans that different people had about their business, about their growth, about their aspirations, um, obviously, have come to a standstill, and it's hard to kind of pull yourself back together from that situation and to literally restart. Um, but let me share a few ideas on how startups could maximize their potential and build for a more sustainable future for themselves. I think the first thing I'd like to say is repurpose and redirect.
Mhm.
There is an opportunity to repurpose existing businesses and even manufacturing facilities. We are seeing distilleries producing sanitizers, auto manufacturers producing ventilators. So there is shifting consumer priorities, and you need to adapt to that. For example, mobility services like cabs are seeing a huge dip, but there's an increased requirement for on call emergency vehicles, delivery vans, last mile distribution. Um, online payments or lending companies could reuse their tech stack for distribution of grants to last mile beneficiaries. Technology that is used for tracking agent network or BCs can be repurposed to reveal information about medical or grocery stores open for business in different locations. So, and we are already seeing some examples of this playing out in the US. US government, as we all know, has announced a very generous package of $340 billion to be given as loans to small businesses through Small Business Administration, their federal agency for small businesses. And they were simply overwhelmed by the enormous task of executing this massive outflow in a systematic way. And now, fintech companies that cater to small businesses like PayPal, Square, Intuit, they have all been roped in to run this government support program. So I think there's a lot of opportunity if you start to think of what else you can do with your core competencies and your core capabilities that you have. The
No, I
second
agree.
thing, sorry.
I was just agreeing to your point.
Yeah. Um, the second thing I would say is collaborate and co-create. We are all aware that India actually has an enviable pool of tech entrepreneurs and startup innovators that have addressed some of the most complex problems with an affordable solution. Um, as we all know, I think the startup ecosystem is trained to be agile and creative in the most constraining environments. Most of them operate with limited financial resources and huge competitive pressures. So, government agencies, public sector enterprises, large corporates, large incumbents across sectors could find it very helpful to engage with tech innovators and startups to respond quickly to the evolving situation. Startups can offer reconciliation tools or MIS visualization or API integration with core systems for their partners like banks or platforms or marketplaces. I believe banks and insurers are likely to accelerate their digitization plans, and that could also present M&A opportunities for fintech companies. Um, we've just heard of an acquisition in US where Sophie and a large lending company announced acquisition of Galileo, a payments processing company. Startups could also explore partnerships with others serving similar customer segments. Again, we are starting to see examples of this. Uber has announced they are partnering with Big Basket for last mile distribution.
No, I agree. I think those opportunities are huge. So if I look at from my business side, we are about to start an accelerator with a partner. And imagine we are starting at this point of time when actually absolutely there's no traction expected to start. But I think what we realized is that people are now getting ready to talk over phone, talk over Zoom, and they can do the same work instead of traveling and increasing the cost of doing business, right? So we are working on accelerator, we are working on AP accelerator, we are working on some training. So I think what we realized is that on day one, honestly, I was also as unhappy as anybody else. Some of our deals obviously slowed down, but with time, we've realized that we are able to relook at the same opportunity differently. Our trainings have come back online. So I think I'm with you on it. And I'm also getting an opportunity to start my podcast, which I did almost 3 years back. And given that everybody is at home, I'm able to use their time. Otherwise, I am sure, Smita, if I would have asked for a runtime, you would have found it difficult with so much of travel, right?
Exactly, and that's the third suggestion that I want to make to startups is to create more work from home jobs. Obviously, the option to work from home is a great privilege during times like this. And I do agree that all jobs cannot be done remotely, but many more than are currently available could be systematically moved to a work from home mode, even in normal circumstances. Customer service agents, sales agents could be equally effective using a phone or social media than in person meetings. Software development, risk management, analytics, accounting, and so many more functions can be seamlessly fulfilled by working remotely. This, I think, will not just save costs for the companies. It will significantly broaden the available talent pool. Imagine you could potentially hire a data scientist working from another country for you.
I agree.
Um, I think it requires a new mindset and use of tech tools to work with a geographically spread out team, but it could be a significant game changer.
No, I agree. In fact, we always do this training in Mumbai, and we always would get some people from outside, maybe 30% from within India, and maybe one or two from flying from inside, from outside the country. But this time we had people from Portugal, Vietnam, Japan, and Dubai in our class, which is unimaginable, right? I was asking one guy when did he wake up, and he woke up at 4 o'clock to attend our session. So I think this is a new opportunity. So coming back, I think I started my entrepreneurship journey when demon happened, right? So there's a complete shift in market, and you enter. Do you think from a startup perspective, is it the right time to start, or they should still wait, right? So anybody who's just on the corners, is it the right time to start on their own?
I think it's the right time for any entrepreneur to start when you hit upon a brilliant idea that can serve an imminent problem that is being faced by a vast segment of people. So if you and I think there are the what is good about the current environment is that there are a lot of new emerging situations which have actually opened up people's mindset and attitude towards trying out different solutions. And so this is a great time to actually offer something that could actually address a particular pain point, could address a particular problem, and it might actually give you the right opening to create a business where everybody else is feeling a sense of gloom and a sense of despair. And I think a lot of that sense of gloom and sense of despair comes from the fact that it's very hard to discard something that you have built.
I agree.
Because and what you built may have been fantastic in times when you built it, but the realities today are different, and suddenly it's not that useful or not that attractive. And it's very hard for somebody who's created it from scratch to recognize and to discard it. But when you're starting afresh, you could actually bring in a fresh perspective to, hey, let me see what are the big pain points and let me come up with a very creative and an innovative solution to address it.
Perfect. Perfect. And any last thoughts on employees going through a bit of a trouble right now, thinking that what will happen to them, given the companies are also in trouble? Any insights for what employees should be doing right now?
Um, yes, it is tough times for everyone. And so the first thing I would say is to be patient. You're not alone in this, and we will all ride through this. The other thing I would say is people who have time on hand, and that time could be a blessing because you have actually been asked to go on forced leave by your company, or you have some slack in the work that you're doing. Use that time to reskill yourself, upgrade your knowledge, upgrade your skills. There's a tons of online courses from the best of faculty and professors from across the world that are available. So use this time to actually acquire new skills and acquire your knowledge. And I'm sure it will all come in handy once the businesses pick up, once the economy starts revving up again. There will always be need for good talent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Vida. I think a lot of good insights, both from my industry perspective, customer perspective, and as an entrepreneur, I have something to sort of learn in the session. So thanks, Vida, for joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you. Thank you.